The historical Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry continued into its ninth round of public hearings on Monday, March 23, 2015, at the Supreme Court Law Library Building, Georgetown. Brother of the late Dr. Walter Rodney, Donald Rodney, completed his cross-examination. People's National Congress PNC attorney Basil Williams sought to discredit an earlier statement by Donald Rodney that former PNC leader Forbes Burnham said, quote, WPA must make their wills, unquote, which was interpreted as a serious threat to members of the Working People's Alliance, WPA, back then.
Do you agree with me that's inaccurate?
It's as I recall it.
Well, would you like to have a look at EK3 then? Marshall? Could you show me?
We are hearing some loud voices in the back. Please promise us some quiet. Thank you.
Do you see that?
Yes?
Do you agree it does not say WPA members?
I heard it on the radio as
No,
WPA
could you just
members.
answer my question, please? And could you read that part there in the report? EK3?
Do you want me to read from the beginning of the page?
No, where is highlighted?
I see. Better make their wills, because as far as we are.
And before better, is not comrades is being used there?
But before better is they.
They, exactly. They had better make their wills. But they is not the same thing as WPA. You haven't seen WPA must better make their wills.
I heard that on the radio.
Could you answer the question, please? Do you see WPA, as you said here, must make their wills?
That is my answer to your question. I heard it on the radio.
Mr. Rodney maintained that a statement attributed to Burnham was heard on a radio broadcast and was intended for the WPA, given the atmosphere that permeated at that time. The brother of the assassinated scholar told attorney Williams that loaning his brother his passport was seen as an illegal but legitimate act given the pressure under the PNC dictatorship.
Your evidence, the third paragraph from the top.
Yes.
Could you read it, please?
All right, Walter in fact did ask me early in 1980 to use my passport for him to travel. I responded by giving him the passport. Subsequently, he returned the passport. He said he did not use
All right, let's stop at passport, the first sentence. You're giving him your passport to travel.
Yes, sir.
Is that the law in Guyana? Was it the law in Guyana or the law in any country that one man could give another man his passport to travel on?
It's illegal.
Pardon me?
It is illegal, but legitimate.
So if you're saying it's illegal, so you were agreeing to participate in an unlawful enterprise?
I said it was illegal, but legitimate.
No, but I'm asking you a question now. When you give him your passport for him to use to travel, you were in fact agreeing to an unlawful enterprise.
I was taking part, I believe, in something that was legitimately against the dictatorship.
Well, don't go and kill anybody and say you believe it's legitimate, though. No.
I wouldn't.
But
And I don't think I'm on record, or the WP is on record as killing anyone.
Didn't you think it was immoral? It was morally wrong?
No, I said it was legitimate.
And therefore, you didn't care whether it was wrong or right. That's what you're saying?
Oh, no. I've certainly cared whether it was wrong or right.
And so that was your approach to life during that period?
That was my response to the circumstances.
Break the law and
at the
decide that
time.
is right?
That was my response to the circumstances in the country at the time.
Donald Rodney said he became a fugitive from injustice and discredited notions by Williams that he was aware that the device he collected from Sergeant Gregory Smith was an explosive.
I saw Dr. Rodney in the first week in June and noticed that he had his hair cut short. Dr. Rodney told me he was back from a successful trip and was ready to remove the hoodlums from power. I asked him about the information on the detonator. He said Donald did not get it from the brother at Linden. Dr. Rodney...
Yes, you could stop there. If you go over leaf at page 63, you'll see the second paragraph where you're saying that too is a complete fabrication as far as I'm aware. You see what your lawyer is doing is giving you several paragraphs to read and then you just giving it a broad brush. You see that overleaf?
Yes, I see that. That is
No.
a complete fabrication.
But Mr. Williams, you asked him to read a large paragraph, third paragraph from the end of page 62. Haven't read it in part now, Madam. You're moving on?
No. I'm really pulling out from that the statement. I asked him about the information on the detonator and he said Donald did not get it from the brother Clinton. You see that part here?
Yes, I've seen it. I've read
Yes.
it.
Now, are you aware that Jomo, Mr. Yewo testified before this commission? In fact, he testified just before you, or if not before you, after you. Just after, one in front or behind. It was before? The day before you?
No, I'm hearing it now.
Yes. And he told us that his marriage broke up because of the detonators that he was asked to secure by your brother, Dr. Rodney. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of what he told the commission.
But now that I'm suggesting this, I'm telling you this, does it jog your memory in relation to this sentence on page 62, where Gregory Smith is saying, I asked him about the information on the detonator and he said Donald did not get it from the brother at Linden?
I never had anything to do with the brother at Linden.
Nor any detonator?
Or any detonator.
During re-examination, Mr. Rodney spoke of rigged elections under the PNC and fear of the regime, which deterred him from giving an early police statement following the explosion in his car that killed his brother on June 13, 1980.
I believe the dictatorship was on the verge of foisting a constitution that no one wanted on the country, on Guyana. And these were situations I would consider as being abnormal. A radical might say that it had already moved to a new level of normalcy, but I consider it abnormal.
You also asked and probed by Mr. Basil Williams as to why you did not consider Gregory Smith untrustworthy or shifty. Those were his words on the night. And you said you did not. Could you tell us why you did not, though?
I didn't think I had any basis. I know on the afternoon of June 13th, when Walter first told me he was going to have the test carried out, that it seemed strange because I thought the test was already completed. That was a question in my mind. But when I arrived at Gregory Smith's house the same evening, after asking where Walter was, the very next statement, without my asking further, was that the test was being carried out to check the transmission, or rather the effect on the transmission of the unit that is being built by the metal expanse on the prison. So the one inkling, or niggling rather, one niggling question in my mind was allayed by that statement.
You were also asked by, again, Mr. Basil Williams, learned friend, that, well, it was put to you that your brother on the night, Dr. Walter Rodney, on the night of the 13th of June 1980, did not follow the directions given by Gregory Smith. In what way did Dr. Walter Rodney not follow the directions given by Gregory Smith? In what way, if at all?
He didn't follow it in relation to the walking.
Explain.
In that the directions were that we should walk along Russell Street into Camp Street. But in fact, we drove.
Yes.
He didn't follow it in terms of the route either, because in driving, we followed a different route.
What was the route that Gregory Smith suggested? Where would that route take you?
The route that Gregory Smith suggested would have taken us past the jail, the front of the jail, which coincidentally is the route ascribed as being said by me in the magistrate court, when in fact I didn't say so. But
Sister of murder accused Sergeant Gregory Smith, Ann Wagner, who co-authored his book, Assassination, Cry of a Failed Revolution, is expected to testify before the Commission during Tuesday's sitting. Meantime, Assistant Lead Counsel to the Commission, Lachmi Rahamat, summed up the proceedings.
Today we saw Donald Rodney completing his cross-examination, and then he was re-examined by his counsel. Coming out from his cross-examination today, Donald Rodney maintained that he never had any knowledge that the device that he had in his possession, that he handed over to his brother, Dr. Walter Rodney, contained explosives. He maintained that at the time he thought it was a communication device and that himself and Dr. Rodney were testing it. He maintained that this device was handed to him by Gregory Smith. Donald Rodney was questioned today in relation to the fact that he was convicted for being in possession of an explosive. He was sentenced to 18 months, and while on bail pending appeal, he would have left the country. In relation to these questions, Donald Rodney told the Commission that he sees himself as a fugitive from injustice. We have to understand what he meant by this phrase. He has maintained all along that he's an innocent man, in that he had no knowledge of explosives being in the device that he had, and therefore his conviction was wrong. He felt that he was being treated unjustly in the fact that the magistrate convicted him. And that is why he told the Commission that he felt he was a fugitive from injustice. We also saw coming into the Commission today a document being tendered from Amnesty International. Donald Rodney had indicated that Amnesty International, among other organizations, would have been present during his trial in the magistrate's court. What we saw was the report, or part of the report Amnesty International had prepared, where they spoke about his trial. And in that report, what it said is that Donald Rodney read from his statement, and what he read stated that he had no knowledge that the device had explosives in it. Yet the magistrate found that he was in possession, and therefore it was on him, the burden fell on him to prove that he had no such knowledge, and the magistrate convicted him. Now therein lies a discrepancy in relation to the law of possession, which in effect, and this is what was noted by Amnesty International, it reversed the burden of proof. You know, where the state has the burden to prove these things. In that particular case, the report from Amnesty International noted that the burden of proof would have been reversed. We also saw under re-examination Donald Rodney having to clear up some matters which would have arisen in cross-examination. In particular, what was said to Karen D'Souza and Andaye when he went to their home on the night of the incident. Donald Rodney maintained that he did in fact said that something terrible had happened. And when he said something terrible had happened, what he meant was that Walter was injured and you need to go now. And when you read the inquest evidence in relation to what Miss Karen D'Souza said, she understood those words of something terrible happening to indicate that something out of the ordinary had occurred and something which indicated that assistance was required from her. Now we have coming tomorrow before the commission Miss Ann Wagner, who is of course the sister of Gregory Smith, who is a man and a name that has come up from the beginning of these proceedings, and she did in fact co-write a book, Assassination, Cry of a Failed Revolution, which has also been tendered before the commission. And we look forward to hearing from her because she not only is related to Gregory Smith, but she also would have spoken to him and co-authored this book, which gave a version of events that is alleged to have come from Gregory Smith. So we look forward to her testimony.